Job in chapter number 31. Job is basically in the exact middle of your Bible. Looks like the book of Job, Job 31. And we'll be starting there with verse number 4, Job 31 and verse number 4. If you're not familiar with the book of Job, it's one of the, what they'd say, poetry books or maybe philosophical books. Basically, the book in chapter 1 and chapter 2 is about Job losing everything. Now, I don't think that this guy is a fictional character. I don't think he's an allegory. I don't think he's just, a story that God told. I think he was a real person. He was a real man that actually lived, that actually lost everything. And from that point on, the entire book is about him going back and forth with three of his friends, them saying something to him, accusing him saying something back, and then eventually a young guy kind of questions him, and then eventually Job has a conversation with God himself. So right here where we're at, it's a couple of chapters in a row where Job is just giving his opinion to his friends. He finally is able to shut them up after these chapters, but you really get a lot of insight to who Job was as a person, especially in this last chapter, chapter 31. So let's take a look there, Job 31 and verse number 4. He says, "Doth not he see my ways and count all my steps? If I have walked with vanity, or if my foot hath hasted to deceit, let me be weighed in an even balance, that God may know mine integrity. If my step hath turned out of the way, and my heart walked after mine eyes, and if any blot hath cleaved to mine hands, then let me sow, and let another eat, yea, let my offspring be rooted out." So listen to what he's saying here. He is kind of putting out a challenge. His friends came to him and they said, all this bad stuff is happening to you because you've been doing stuff wrong. You've been living wrong. You've been living wickedly. Now, let's be honest. Who here has not had something bad happen to you? And the first thing you thought of was, I wonder if this happened because, God saw what I did last week. Or God saw that argument I had with my wife. Or God saw me lose my temper. Or God saw when I was driving down the road and I cursed out that guy. I told him he was number one, right? And God saw that, and because he saw me do that, now he's punishing me. Now he's coming after me. Which young person here who is spiritual and walks with the Lord gets an F on the test, and maybe they studied and they still got an F, and the first thing they think of, it's because God saw me disrespect my mom. She saw when I said something to my dad. She saw when I rolled my eyes or I did that, and God is punishing me. I mean, we've all been there before. I've been there before when I've had things happen in my life. And although I knew probably it wasn't just God trying to punish me, that thought goes through my mind. Like, did this happen because I did this or I did that, or I'm living in sin, or I lost my temper, or I lost my cool? Is God getting me back? And Job here, he is so confident in the way that he has been walking that he says, I want for God to get a magnifying glass. I don't want God to get a magnifying glass in my life. He doesn't need one. He could use a telescope and he could see the stuff that I do. I don't need God to examine me really close, nor do I want him to. And I don't know how many of you would be willing to say, oh yeah, let God examine me. Let's go ahead and put my life this past week on a TV screen, and you can just watch my life. From Sunday to Sunday last week, would you guys want that to happen? Would you want to see that? I know I wouldn't. From the big to the small, from the really big that I won't tell you, to the smaller when we were on Memorial Day and playing volleyball and I lost my temper and, Justice quit, didn't want to play with us anymore because I was too mean. And then one game I was really mad and we won the game. Those of you that are playing, you know what I'm talking about. And they were switching the score and I got so mad. And I said, you guys lost, get off the court. And they wouldn't get off the court. I said, get off the court, you lost. Well, we're not leaving. Yeah, you are, you lost. And we're arguing back and forth. And we ended up winning the game. I had to go to the other team afterwards and say, listen, that was a terrible example of Christianity. I'm really sorry. I mean, that's embarrassing, right? They already said, oh, this guy's a pastor over here. And then I acted like that. I felt really embarrassed. I would not want my life on that TV for this past week. I would not. I don't care that there's a lot of good to go with the bad. I don't care there's going to be some highlights and you go, oh, pastor, that was pretty good. No. Just between me and God. I'm okay with that. But Job was so confident. He said, put it on the TV. Take a look, not at the last week. Take a look at my life. Take a look at the years. And he says, I will put this out there. If I am weighed in an even balance, it's completely fair. And you look at my life, he says, if you find anything, if I got out of line, if I did something wrong, if I was unjust, he said, if any blot hath cleaved to mine hands. In other words, if I have a sin that I just can't tackle, I have some kind of addiction or some kind of vice, or I'm just a terrible person. If that is the case, he said, then everything that I work for, let it go bad. I want my job to go bad then. I want to lose my job. I want to get fired. I want to stack stuff up and the whole thing to come crashing down. I want to work at a car place and park cars, and I crash every single car I get into. I want it to go bad. If you find anything in my life, I want it to all go bad. He says, I want my offspring to be rooted out. Now we're getting crazy. He's bringing his kids into it. God punish me. Don't punish my kids because of me. That's the last thing I want. That's what every parent would say, right? Leave my kids alone. Let me suffer for what I do. Don't let my kids suffer for what I do. But Job said, yeah, let's do it. Sign on the dotted line. That's how confident I am that I have been doing what I am supposed to do. Can I remind you, all of his kids had died anyway. They were already gone. And he said, that's not on me. They're not gone because of anything I did. I am certain of it. I am confident of it. He goes on. He says there, verse 9, if mine heart hath been deceived by a woman, or if I have laid wait at my neighbor's door. So if I've been having an affair, if I've been at the job place and me and this other lady have been looking at each other, Job said, if I have a secret cell phone, he said that, it's in the Hebrew. If I got a secret cell phone and I've been texting this woman, or I follow her on Instagram and we've been messaging each other and nobody knows about it and my wife doesn't know about it. If you can find anything, this is kind of graphic a little bit, but it's in the Bible. I'll just read it, but I won't explain it. You can read it, yourself. He says, then let my wife grind unto another and let others bow down upon her. I mean, that's pretty graphic. He's just saying, listen, I am 100% that me and her, that I have been righteous. If that's not the case, she can go ahead and be with another man. That's what he's saying. That is how confident he is. That is kind of a lot of confidence. Now, we have several married men here. I mean, I know the men in this church, you guys are loyal. Hermano Gabriel's been married for, how many years, Hermano? 20 years? Right? So him and the hermana, they were like 15 when they got married. These guys are young over here, right? And then, Michael, they got married at 15 too. I mean, a lot of you have been married a long, long time, right? And during that time, these men have been faithful. But I don't know if they're going to want to throw it out there and go, in the 20 years I've been married, I never one time got out of line with someone else. They're going to say yes, because those women are going to kill them if they say otherwise, right? But in our minds and in our hearts, was there ever a time where you were too friendly? Was there ever a time where you were, too flirtatious or something like that? Clearly, you've been faithful. But was there ever a time where you felt like maybe you stepped out of line? Job said, not me. Not me. Not one single time. And if there was a time, then she can go ahead and she can cheat on me with somebody else. I'm okay with that because that's how confident I am that I have been living the right way. This is a guy that had lost everything, by the way. This is a guy that all of his kids are dead. All of his wealth is gone. All of his friends that work for him are dead. He has lost everything. And yet he is so confident that it's not because of sin in his life. If tomorrow you lost everything, if your house burned down and you lost your job, and your kids, they left and said, I'm never talking to you again, Mom. I'm never talking to you again, Dad. I want nothing to do with you. And you went out and all 4 tires on your car are completely flat. You get in, they stole the steering wheel. Seriously? The steering wheel? Who does that? But you got in, you would begin to think like, what did I do? What sin did I do? You must really be paying me back. But Job didn't feel that way. Even though he lost everything, he says, I don't know why this is happening. I know it's not because of sin I have done. He goes on there. And if you look there at verse number 16, he says, if I have withheld the poor from their desire, or have caused the eyes of the widow to fail, or have eaten my morsel myself alone, and the fatherless hath not eaten thereof, for from my youth he was brought up with me as with a father, and I have guided her from my mother's womb. And if I have seen any perish for want of clothing, or any poor without covering, he says, if I have, verse 21, lifted up mine hand against the fatherless, when I saw my help in the gate. Verse 22, then let mine arm fall from my shoulder blade, and my arm be broken from the bone. For destruction from God was a terror to me, and by reason of his highness I could not endure. He says, if I saw the poor and did not help him, if one time I saw the poor and didn't help him, if I went to the gas station And he came and he bugged me for money. And by the way, if you go to most of the gas stations around here, there's someone going to be coming up to you. They're going to be asking for your money. If I go to 14th Street there, Berry Brothers, I'm a big Berry Brothers believer, by the way. If you don't have a gas station, go to Berry Brothers. $3.95 in Colton if you use cash. I'll tell you what, that's the spot right there. But when I go there, almost without fail, here comes somebody and, hey, buddy, you got any change? Hey, buddy, you got $1? And no, sorry, I don't have any cash. Guy came to us last week. We're dropping off the teenagers. Hey, buddy, can you spare some change? And I said, no, I don't have any change. Sorry, all I have is my card. I went inside, paid. I came back out. The poor guy, he must have been on drugs because he asked me again. And I got a little irritated. Hey, buddy, got any change? No, I already told you no, man. I got no change. Back off, right? And I probably didn't handle that right. And Job here, he said, if you can find one time where I did not help someone who was poor, who was fatherless, who was homeless, he says, then I want my arm to just fall off. I want my shoulder blade to get dislocated. I want to be Gumby with these arms and not be able to use them anymore. If you can find one time I didn't help out the homeless. Now, are you really willing to say that? Are you really willing to say that? Have you seen the homeless we have around here? I mean, sometimes they're down in our parking lot. One lady came during Mother's Day. She said that Isaac looked like her son, so she was going to take him. I go, no, you're not. No, here's some chicken. You go ahead and sit out here. You stay out of this building. And she kept on, she said, I want the ice chest. I want the leftovers. No, 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 no. Here's your bowl. That's my son. No, that's not your son. That's my son. Here, eat this, and then you're going to go away, all right? Job said, one poor person find when I did not help them, I want my arms to fall off. Just let them fall off, God. Let them be disconnected from the shoulder blade. Let them just kind of hang there. Now, do you always give someone $1 at the gas station when they come up and ask you? I mean, how can we? Do you got enough money to do that? You need someone to give you $1, right? You probably pulled up a couple times and go, man, who can I ask for a couple bucks? How are we going to get home? We ain't got money for that. Job said, I'm always helping the poor. I'm always helping the homeless and the fatherless. I always do it. He said, I got a perfect track record. The Bible does not say that he was being braggy or arrogant or proud. He was just spitting facts. He was just telling the truth. This was a man that cared about the poor, and he showed it, and he gave the money away. Next time a poor person asks you for help, will we help them? Or be like, well, I got my own problems. I don't have time to help you. Job, he helped, and he was willing to put his name by it. Last little section here, this is a tough one. If you look there, verse number 24, it says, I have made gold my hope, or have said to find gold, thou art my confidence. So if I put my trust in money, how are we doing with that? How many of you have put your trust in money before? All about the almighty dollar, right? Got to work that overtime. Hey, brother, where were you at church? Oh, sorry, I had to work overtime. Got to pay my bills. Oh, yes, because God doesn't know you have bills. God can't meet your needs, right? He said, if I have put my trust in money, which that's really tough right there. He says, if I beheld the sun when it shined, or the moon walking in brightness. He says, if my heart hath been secretly enticed, or my mouth kissed my hand. What does that mean? My mouth kissed my hand. Well, that means, man, I'm so good. He was feeling himself a little bit like, ooh, I look good, There was the famous song that Bruno Mars sang not that long ago where there was a part where he says, I'm so pretty, I got to kiss myself. That's what he's talking about there. Like, ooh, you look good. I just got to kiss myself. I look so good. Man, you got your stuff together. Look at that car. Look at that house. Look at how I carry myself. I got it going on. He said, if I have done that one time, just one time, then let everything I touch go bad. He said, when I sow, don't let me reap. When I plant, don't let it grow. Let it die. He says there in verse 29, this is the one that really gets me. If I rejoiced at the destruction of him that hated me, or lifted up myself when evil found him. If I rejoiced at the destruction of him that hated me. He says, if someone did me wrong, and then bad happened to them, and I got happy about it, not I got them back, not something bad happened to them because of me, not because they had a flat tire because I slashed the tire, not because they had a broken window in the house because I'm the one that threw the rock. He's not saying that. He's saying, if I saw they had a broken window, I had nothing to do with it, but I got happy about it, then let everything I touch turn to dust. Who in here has not rejoiced because something bad happened to someone that did not like you? When I was in Oregon, I had the chance to teach up there for 3.5 years, and one of the teachers that was there, she was a little bit older than me. She's about 10, 15 years older. She was a sharp lady, but we just did not see eye to eye when it came to these young people. She did not approve of the way I taught. I did not approve of the way she taught. She felt like I was too close to the young people, that I was giving them counsel during break time, that I'm talking about them about topics outside of just history class. And I said, well, yeah, someone needs to help influence these kids. Our job doesn't just stop at the end of class. And she felt like it did. So one time she told me, hey, you're too close to the young people. You shouldn't be giving them counsel. They shouldn't like you as a friend. They shouldn't come to you. I go, yeah, well, I disagree with that. She's like, well, I've been teaching this many years. And I basically said, well, I really don't care what you say. You know, you can keep your opinion to yourself. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm not changing anything. Well, at the time, that was fine because we were, co-workers. Except the next year, she got promoted to principal. So now she's my boss after that wonderful conversation we had. So I was the first thing she chopped. I think 3 months after she became principal, I no longer had a teaching job. I tell you what, I got mad about that. Woof! I went straight to the pastor and said, what is going on? And the pastor said, look, I put her in charge of the school. How can I come and overstep her bounds? If she feels like you got to go, then you got to go. But we love you. You're welcome to still stay on church staff. And I had a real hard time with that. They wanted me to go in front of all the school and say that it was my choice, that I chose to leave. I'm not going to lie for you guys. I'm going to tell them, you got rid of me, right? I was so mad at her. I had a real problem with that. So the lady she hired instead of me was terrible and didn't do a good job. I mean, a nice lady, but she couldn't control the kids. They weren't learning. Her classes were chaos. Can I tell you, I was secretly over here, was just like, I mean, it made me kind of happy, Then the principal lady wanted to get rid of this woman. The pastor wouldn't let her. She had to keep her on board. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's right. That's what you get, lady. That's what you get. That's what you get for getting rid of me. I hope that lady has to stay here for 10 more years. You know what? Job said, nope. Someone did me wrong. I don't want to be happy about their downfall. Someone did me wrong. I'm not going to rejoice because they are suffering now. I tell you what, I am guilty of that. Who in here would be willing to say you've never been guilty of that? Someone hurt you, and then you watched it blow up in their face, and you weren't secretly like, yeah, that's right. That's what you get. Don't mess with me. God's got my back. Job said, not me. I don't do that. I don't rejoice about that. If one time I got happy because you hurt me, and then God hurt you, you'll not find it one time. And if one time you find it, I want everything that I touch to turn to dust. I don't want to succeed in life then. This was a righteous man. He lived at such a high level that just talking about it's kind of crazy. How in the world could we ever reach such a lofty level? Now, obviously, he was not perfect. Obviously, he was not without sin. He was a sinful man, a man of flesh, just like you and I. But he lived at such a high level. How was he, after losing everything, after losing his loved ones, after going through what he went through, how was he able to attain such a high level? Well, I believe just a couple things kind of show. Number one there, Job, he knew that when everything went wrong, when everything went bad, that God had his best interest at heart. We look over a couple of chapters to Job 23. Job chapter 23. Just 3 points and we'll be done. Job 23. I just want to show kind of how he got there. Job 23. This is one of the arguments with his friends when they're going back and forth. And look, verse number 5. Job 23, verse 5, he says, I would know the words which he would answer me and understand what he would say unto me. Before that, in verse number 3, he says, oh, that I knew where I might find him, that I might come even to his seat. Job said, I wish I knew where God was. Here I am suffering, boils head to toe, lost everything that I have, and I just wish God and I could have one conversation. I wish I could sit right here and God could sit right there and we could have a talk. Now, his friends had to be thinking, oh, what are you going to do? You're going to give God a piece of your mind? You're going to let God have it? How dare you, God? And no, what he said there was, he said, verse 6, will he plead against me with his great power? No, but he would put strength in me. It was a little bit of a slap in the face to his friends. He said, you guys have been coming to me telling me where I'm wrong, why I did bad, why all this bad stuff's happening to me because of sin in my life. But if God was talking to me, he would tell me, he would put strength in me. He would have my back. He would take care of me. Even when things were going wrong around him, Job knew God had his best interest at heart. When things don't go your way, when things go wrong, when bad things happen in your life, do you have the confidence and the faith in God to say, you know what? I know why this is happening, Actually, I don't know why this is happening, but I know God has my best interest at heart. I don't understand why this is happening to me. I don't know why I'm struggling. I don't know why I'm suffering. I don't know why this has happened. I just know he has my best interest at heart. And if I could talk to him, I would not ask him why. I just know he would give me strength. He would give me the strength to go forward. That was the confidence Job had in God. Is that our confidence when things don't go right? When you lose your job? When things are going bad at work? When there's friction in the marriage? When there's trouble with the kids? When there's trouble at home? When your health is not what you want it to be? Are you able to look and say, you know what? It's okay. God's got my back. I know that the reason I'm going through this, I don't know why, but I know it's for my best interest. That is where Job lived. That is quite a belief in God and what God can do. That's really where I would like to dwell. He goes on there and he says, verse number 8, he says, behold, I go forward, but he is not there, and backward, but I cannot perceive him. On the left hand where he doth work, but I cannot behold him. He hideth himself on the right hand, that I cannot see him. Job, the hardest thing he was struggling with was not the loss of everything, though that was really hard. The hardest thing for him was he felt like he couldn't see God in his life. When you have not been in your Bible or you have not been praying and you feel far from God, is that the thing that you miss the most? Is that what you struggle with the most, where you say, man, I just don't feel close to God right now. I'm not seeing him in my day-to-day. I don't see him during the week. I don't see him at my job. Or is it, man, everything's going bad, everything's falling apart, I got an F in spelling, or my boyfriend hasn't talked to me, or man, my stomach has been hurting for last week, or whatever it is, and not to knock any of those things. But for Job, it was, I don't see him. I don't feel his presence. I feel far from God. And it was eating him. And it bothered him because he wanted that closeness. When is the last time you felt like, man, me and God were like this? We're tight. Me and God, we are close. He's my friend. I see him. I talk to him. I know him. We're tight. If it's been a while, then probably it's time to get that closeness back. If it's been a while since you felt that way, that should maybe be what's bothering us the most. I don't feel close to him. I feel far from him. And I want to be close to him again. He goes on there in verse number 10. He said, but he knoweth the way that I take. When he hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold. He said that I know that whatever I'm going through, when I get to the end, I'm going to be better for it. And I don't know if that is your mindset or my mindset when we go through things, where you say, I don't know why I'm going through what I'm going through. I don't know why my health is the way it is. I don't know why this is happening in my family or this is happening in my home. I don't know why things are going like this. But I know that when I get to the other side of it, I will be like gold. It's going to make me better because of what I'm going through. It's going to make me better because of what I went through. All right, that's one. Let me give the second one real quick. The very beginning, when Job lost everything, in Job 1, he had this quote. He said, shall we receive good and not evil at the Lord? When his kids died, he said, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Job recognized and he saw and he knew that God sometimes will allow things in our lives that are hard. There is a great hymn I would show you in the book and we could read it together, but it just says, must I be carried to the skies on flowery beds of ease, while others fought to win the prize and sailed through bloody seas. In other words, a lot of Christians in the world and in the past, they really suffered for their faith. Some of them were killed and burned alive and executed for their faith. Thank God we don't have to go through that. Some of them were imprisoned and beaten for their faith. A lot of things that happened to them. Well, why is it there are some Christians who have to go through so many things, but we want nothing but a life of ease? I just want everything to be so nice. I want everything to be so wonderful. Is that really fair? Is it terrible to think that you and I will have to go through some tough things? If you knew that you'd go through some hard things, but it would bring you closer to the Lord, or you'd be a better Christian for it, would you be willing to go through it? Or would we say, no, I will stay far from God, and I just want easy life. I just want nothing bad to happen. I just want a simple peaches and cream ride till I get to heaven. Job said, not me. He said, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Last thing, and we'll be done. We look there at chapter number 31. Can we go back there real quick? Chapter 31, and we'll end with this. Chapter 31 and verse 1, he says, I have made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? Job said, I have made a covenant with mine eyes. He says he had his integrity. He made a decision. He was going to stick by that. He made a decision to be loyal to his wife. No one was going to change that. At another spot here, he's told them in chapter 26, I refuse. He goes, my integrity I hold fast and will not let it go. God forbid that I should justify you. Job had his principles. He had his things that he believed in, and he was not going to let them go. Do you have some things in your life that you believe in? Like, this is a part of your faith. This is what makes me me. And I'm not going to let them go for anyone or for anything. It doesn't matter who it makes feel uncomfortable. It doesn't matter how awkward it gets. It doesn't matter how hard it is for me to hold on to what I believe in. But what I believe in is right. Job said, I'm here on my deathbed. He wasn't, but he thought he was. I'm here suffering. It doesn't matter. There's certain things I'm not letting go of. I'm not letting go of my integrity. I'm not letting go of my faith. I'm not letting go of my principles or my discipline. This is who I am, and I'm not changing for anyone. And I believe every single Christian should have that. There should be certain things about you that you say, oh, I'm a Christian. And no one's going to stop me from being that. No one's going to change me. I'm not going to alter what I believe. I'm not going to alter how I am. I'm not going to change it so you can feel more comfortable. No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to rub it in your face. I'm not going to smack you with the Bible, but I'm not changing either. I'm not changing either. That is what Job said. And I believe those three things helped him get to that really lofty level to where we were talking about. Incredibly, he was saying all these things. Man, God, I want you to put my life on the screen and you won't find anything because I know I have been walking in my integrity. Dear Lord, thank you for tonight. Thank you, Lord, for everyone being here tonight, Lord. A little bit of a low night, but I appreciate so much the faithfulness of everyone. I thank you, Lord, so much for them being here and being faithful. I pray, God, you would just bless as we go throughout our week. I know for many, summer is starting. Kids are going to be home. Perhaps their work schedule won't change, but this is a change of schedule at home. I pray, God, you would help us to stay faithful to you. Summer's an easy time to get out of the rhythm of things, but I pray, God, you would help us, Lord, to stay in rhythm with you. We'd walk with you. We'd pray. We'd read. You would draw us close to you.